Drywall repairman here. Today we're going to patch up this laundry room plumbing access box. They put in a new box with new valves, but the plumber had to go crazy here and cut open a large area. So on this, they have some pieces. We're going to try to reuse the pieces. If not, we're going to have to cut new sheetrock. Obviously, we need to put some backing in here, some wood backing, maybe a piece even there, and then some wood backing here. This, I could probably cut it back center. If I'm unable to use the pieces that they kept, I might have to just cut this back center, the stud. That way I have backing on the left side. This one, I don't want to cut it back because the stud's all the way over there, so it's going to create a larger patch. So we're just going to put wood backing here. Wood backings, 1x2s, 2x4s, 2x2s, any kind of wood backing, so you have something to screw the sheetrock to. The new sheetrock and the old sheetrock, basically a stud that you add in. But yeah, let's get to work. First things first, we're going to have to mask the floors. Since this is a spray texture that we're doing today, it's like a spray knockdown. I want to plastic off the floor, the baseboard. You can pull these receptacles. I don't like to pull them because then I have to put them back, so I just mask them off. A little bit of masking on the bottom of the cabinet just to contain the overspray. The texture goes everywhere. But we're going to go ahead and get this all masked off, and then we're going to get to work here. Basic masking tape, 1-inch tape, 2-inch tape. I like to use this 1.5 inch. Just get the baseboard masked. Basically, you got to treat it like you're going to be spray painting this whole area because that texture goes everywhere. So you just want to mask it all off to contain the mess. Drape the plastic over this washing machine. I'm going to go in the angle too. Mask off. Some guys like to mask off before they do the texture, but for me it's easier to mask off everything now before I start mudding. So these pieces they cut out are kind of rough, so I don't want to reuse these. You could take the piece though and get a paint match, or just take a little piece like this so you can have a paint match. You can take that to any paint store and just have them match the paint, something like that. You'll need less than a quart to paint it. So you have to primer and paint it, but keep a piece of the cutout for your paint match. Always do that on any drywall repairs. Even though you think you have the paint tucked away somewhere in your garage or storage shed, just keep a piece just in case. Just put it to the side so you don't lose it. But yeah, this is all garbage. I'm not going to reuse this. So like I said, we're going to have to cut back that on center, cut it back center. Basic supplies for a repair job like that. T-square, if you don't have a T-square, you can use a level. Backing, remember how I said we need wood backing? So you can use like these 2x3s, 1x2s, 2x4s, whatever you want to use. Of course, tape measure, sheetrock knife. This is 1/2 inch sheetrock, so 1.5 inch screws, pencil, fiberglass mesh tape, 1/2 inch sheetrock, screw gun, fiberglass mesh, of course, to tape it, 6-inch knife. Then, of course, you'll need your joint compounds to coat it, but I'm going to use a hot mud, like a 5-minute mud. And then your texture, we always use texture on these for spraying. We use just a thin down all-purpose joint compound that we spray on with the hopper and air compressor. But yeah, we're gonna cut this back here. I'm just gonna use a T-square here, get it leveled here, pencil it, cut it back so I have something to screw to. I might have to take one of these little 1x2s and put it in there. I might do something on top there and then just put backing up and down there with these pieces. I have some sheetrock on hand. I can use a full piece here, but I have a lot of scrap I'm going to use. A lot of people like to use green board or mold resistant sheetrock. Green board and purple board are sold more at the home improvement stores. You always see the green sheetrock. That's mold resistant. They say water resistant, but if sheetrock gets wet, no matter what color it is, it's ruined. So I do have some mold guard on hand, which looks like regular sheetrock, but it's actually mold guard, so it's like a green board. And I have scraps of that I want to use up to get off my work truck. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to work. Let's get this squared up, cut that out nice and square, add our backing, get everything ready for sheetrock. Get the sheetrock installed, put plenty of screws. I like to do screws every 2-3 inches, plenty of screws. Add some screws on the outside edge to tighten up the old sheetrock. There, just tighten it all up. Install the sheetrock, plenty of screws. Tape it with fiberglass. Then we're gonna get it coated out with a 5-minute mud that I have to get on really quick with 5 minutes. Clean it up, then we're gonna slick it out. Need be, if I put the 5-minute on thick enough, I can slick it out and be ready for texture, but it may need a second coat, skim coat. And then we're gonna pull off the hopper and the joint compound and do a spray knockdown. But let's get to work. Basic tools here. You don't need much, but if you had to go out and buy all these little tools, it get expensive. So sometimes it's just better to hire someone to do a small patch like that if you don't have the basic supplies. That fiberglass, $10, good stuff's like $15, 2x4s, plastic, all that stuff adds up. So you kind of see if it's worth doing yourself. If you're handy and you have basic supplies on hand, then yeah, you can do it yourself. But if you have to go out and buy every screw, stuff like that, sometimes it's more expensive than it's worth. Just hire someone to do it right and it's done, complete. But yeah, let's get to work here. We're gonna get this all cut out, get it sheetrocked, and get this finished up so she can put her washer back in place tonight and be able to do some washing. A few times since it's on the stud. Keep going until it cuts. Working with razor blades, so be careful. One slip up, you can hurt yourself. There's a proper way I hold this thing. I don't just have my fingers hanging around. You hold it like it means something. You score it enough times, it'll just clean, nice clean cut. Nice clean cut. We're going to cut the bottom down to the base. No need to have that there. We're just going to finish it down to the baseboard. Remember I said adding backing. This side, make sure there's no pipes, nothing in the way. Everything's good there. Sometimes there might be a pipe there, so you always want to double check. Plumbers shouldn't have pipes against the drywall, but you never know. I'm just going to use these scraps. You can also just use one 2x4, 2x2, whatever. But I'm just going to put these in. 1 1/4 screws for 1/2 inch, or you can use 1 1/2 screws, but 1 1/4 are the go-to screws. Coarse, because it's wood framing, so we use coarse 1 1/4 drywall screws. They go in easy. They don't go too far. You don't want them going, the heads of the screws sticking out past the end. Like I said, just add plenty of screws every 2 to 3 inches. Just kind of hold the backing in place until I get that screw in, so I know it doesn't move or pop out. One more. Made the use of all my extra studs, woods I had in my truck. Always keep a bunch of pieces like this, like 2-foot pieces, because they're easy to store in the work truck. They're not in the way, and they make perfect backing. In here, I like to add screws in the old sheetrock to tighten up that, since we cut it out, it loosened up the old sheetrock. So I add plenty of screws on the outside edge to tighten that up. 1x2 here is not needed, or you might go like this, because this is a box. You might just run it to the edge of this box. Actually, let's do this last 2x4 here. The plumber should have actually did this. I'm gonna go to these flanges of the box, tighten that up, put a few screws in it to make it really tight. And then the actual plumbing flange, the screw holes here, I'm gonna put the screw right through that flange. This is not needed, but now I got a nice strong plumbing box. Something to screw my sheetrock to on the side here, plus the box is secure. It's not gonna move and jiggle. Plumber should have did that, but you know, why would the plumber do extra work? So I know I can do a piece of sheetrock down to here. I can add a piece here, piece there, or piece there. It'd be nice to get a piece of wood on this outside edge here. You can probably just tape it as is, but I don't want it to crack. It's a real tight area. So if I can't get this 1x2 in there, I might have to cut the sheetrock back to get some wood in there. But let's see if we can do this. Well, it looks like it's cement board. I'll pull the screw that I put in, because obviously it's not going to work. It'll be fine. It's right there. I think we have plenty of backing in. Double check, make sure you have enough screws and everything. Now you can take your measurements. I like on a piece of scrap drywall or wood, I like to take my measurements and write them down, so when I go cut my sheetrock, I don't forget my cut measurements. Here we're at 15 3/4. I like to measure the top and the bottom, because on the top we're at 15 1/4. So I'm gonna just say, yeah, we're gonna go 15 1/2. We're gonna meet in the middle. If I did a whole sheet, I would just measure the top 37. But more than likely, I'm just going to go to the bottom of the box here. And we'll just say 26. So that gives us the first cut for the large area, and then we can just piece that in, whatever we have to do there. Easy enough. All right, piece is cut. Sometimes you have to cut it back. Any gaps, you can pre-fill those, or you can put a little piece of drywall on it. But that piece is in there, so now I just did a piece there, or I can just cut one piece and then notch the box out. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, add plenty of screws. Add screws every 2 to 4 inches, nice and tight. Don't go too far with the screws. You don't want to go through the sheetrock. You're just going through the face paper here, so it's recessed. You missed the stud, kick it over. Sometimes you can toenail the screw to catch that stud. You want to make sure you catch the stud. Like that, kick it over, kick it over. Plenty of screws on the outside sheetrock. Gap here, it's not big, but there's a piece of scrap here. You can just fit it in there. No big deal. We're just going to tape and mud over this anyways. We did a cutout here, so it's never going to be perfect cutout. 6 like 6. Scraper tape's going to go. Now we need this piece. I could just cut one big piece actually. Let's do it this 15 by 11. So let's go get this piece cut out. 15 by 11. 15 by 11, put out here. I like to just put it against it and mark it with a pencil, or you can measure it. Straight edge. Cut out the box. I use a keyhole saw, drywall saw. You'll see these tools are good to have if you're going to do. I like to cut the weak side because if I cut the rest and this might break off. So I like to start on the weakest point. Now I can go over here. Keyhole saw that part, but this part you can just run your razor. Hopefully it went good, so it should fit. If not, we're gonna have to cut it back, kind of whittle it down. Yeah, so we'll have to whittle down this corner, that, and that, no problem. Good to me. Add some screws, tighten it up. Now we just have to do a little piece there and fiberglass it all up. Remember that piece of wood I added here? So now that box is really strong, especially once I secure this sheetrock. That box is secure. Strong, strong, strong. All the plumber could have did was just add that. Go the extra mile. Tighten it up. Small scrap piece from that, so I'm just going to put that in over there, no big deal. Eyeball it, cut it, cut it. Looks good to me. Add a few more screws, make sure everything's nice and tight. A few more screws left, so I'm trying to use up anything I dropped. I don't want to waste screws, waste supplies. So I'm going to use up all these screws I have on the ground. Just use them up, don't waste them. You'd be surprised that few screws you drop could be used on the next project. The plumber's bracket on the stud there is kind of bulging it out. It's okay. If the bulge is really big, you're going to have to shave the back of the sheetrock out because you don't want a big hump on the wall when you go to mud this. Plenty of screws, everything looks good. I can add a screw there. I'm just using up these screws. No need to waste them, no need to go put them back, so I'm going to just use them up. Everything's nice and tight. Now I'm going to go through with my 6, scrape everything. Any screws like that screw's sticking up your head, make sure your screws are countersunk. You don't want screw heads sticking out. Any high spots, that's what this is. That's where that bracket is. So you're just going over it with the 6, knock the high spot off the sheetrock. This is spray glue, this is optional. The only reason I'm using this is so my fiberglass just stays put, it doesn't fall down. I'm gonna go mix some mud and I don't want my tape to fall off. Optional product, it's not needed. I just like to tack this tape up. The tape is naturally sticky on the back. Fiberglass, we want to always use fiberglass for repairs. I don't care what others say. There's so many tapes out there, so many products out there. Just stick to your fiberglass and mesh tape. If used properly, you won't have any issues. You got to go over all the seams and cracks with it. You can't just go partially over stuff, over everything. If you don't fiberglass it, it's going to crack. Fiberglass is strong material. I know a lot of people try to say buy this, buy that. I've been a licensed drywaller for over a decade. Been in drywall for 25, 26 years now. We've always used the go-to fiberglass mesh tape for repairs. Paper tape, those are good for angles, maybe new homes, remodels. When you're doing angles, 90-degree angles, or you're doing, let's say, a new sheetrock where you're using a bazooka, that's when they like to use the paper tape. All this I can tape tight, it doesn't matter because it's going to get the cover plate over it. But everything's fiberglass. Push off the fiberglass, your sticks. You don't want the fiberglass curling on you. I'm using everything's done. 5-minute quick set mud. This is a more professional grade material. So if you never mudded before, just stick to an all-purpose joint compound. I have to use these quick set muds because I have to finish these jobs and get them textured in one trip. 6-inch knife, I like to use a 12-inch knife. Most guys start off with a 10-inch knife, but my 12 is my go-to. A little bit of mud in, I'm gonna strike in that fiberglass and I'm gonna push down so I get that mud inside the grooves and the gap here. Or you can pre-fill it before and then tape after. This is kind of like a pre-fill technique. A lot of guys fail to do this step. They just coat over it heavy, but they don't get that mud pushed inside the creases and the gap of the fiberglass. So that's probably why their fiberglass fails and cracks. Now I can coat it out. I'm going to coat it out fairly heavy. I'm not going to just pile a bunch of mud on. I'm going to put mud on where it's needed. On the patch, on the outside edge. Feather it out. I'm going to get all my mud on my pan that's in my pan, so I know there's plenty of material on here before I trowel it down. Around this detail box, that's what they call around doing detail, around boxes and stuff. Just make sure there's enough mud here. Got my whole pan on, now I'm going to feather the edge. Feathering, you just take your knife and you kind of feather, a little more pressure on the edge, just to feather the edge. Feather the edge. The bottom here, since it's a tight area, just make sure there's plenty of mud. I'm gonna just use my 6-inch knife and feather it, basically coating. I'm not pushing down super hard because I'm coating. I'm gonna coat. Now I can take my, bring it down, or you can go sideways. Whatever it takes to coat it. There's no right or wrong way. Everybody has a right or wrong way of doing things. Your goal here is just to get it first coated. First coat is just to fill it in, get it coated, get that to drying. Anything you don't like here, you just take your 6. You mostly want to get rid of that edge, the mud edge on your box. You can do tight with your 6 just to make it nice and clean. It doesn't have to be perfect for your first coat. This is a 5-minute mud, so I gotta clean up my tools fast. Get all the extra wasted mud out of there. I didn't make too much, so I didn't waste too much product. These 5 minutes, I just mix a pan at a time. So I get the material on, your knives, scrape them off, whatever it takes. Just get all that mud out of there. And then we're gonna go wash it out with the hose. If you don't have a hose, just a water bucket and a sponge. While this is setting up, this 5-minute, I'm gonna clean my tools. I might set up for the next step, maybe get the air compressor out, get this time to set up. I'm gonna come back in here, and if it's wet to touch, I'm gonna let it dry another minute, but then we're gonna take the sponge and the 6-inch knife and slick it out and see what it looks like. If it still needs some work, we're gonna do a tight second coat. But if I put the mud on heavy enough with this quick set mud, I might be able to just slick it out, and slicking out, it's almost like a second coat process. But we'll see. Let it set up. If you're using a joint compound, all-purpose joint compound, you're gonna have to let that dry overnight and then turn around and sand it with either an 80 grit or 100 grit, and then turn around and do a second coat. Let that dry, then sand it, and then if need be, do a third coat. Like I said, this is a quick set mud. So it sets up fast. It almost sets up like cement, so it's more pro-grade materials. But let's go ahead and let this set up, get the tools cleaned up, set up for our next step, second coat process. This is the quick set mud I use. We call it hot mud. Of course, depending on where you're located, you might not have this brand, but this is stuff I work with. 5 minutes sets up. But yeah, see, it's already set up. So we're gonna take the sponge and 6-inch and we're gonna slick it all out. If you slick out good, it's gonna turn into a second coat. So let's get this all slicked out, and then we're gonna see if it needs another damp coat. Sponge, clean 6. Get rid of that edge. That's most important, is that edge. See, it's been about 6 minutes and it's set up like a rock. That's why I said this is more professional grade material. Because if you don't catch it, it's gonna set up like a cement. Sure, you can sand it, but you don't want to sand this stuff. You want to do a slick out technique like this. See, I'm taking off the extra material. I'm kind of going over everything with that extra material, so it's almost like a second coat. It's filling in deep areas, so you can go every direction. You can go the opposite direction. Since this is right against the baseboard, I treat this like caulking. I just fill that in. Actually, this is better than caulking because it won't crack out like caulking. So I fill in that base area, feather it out. Keep your knife clean. If your sponge gets dry, dip it in a fresh water bucket. You just gotta slick it out. That's why you don't want to put the mud on too heavy, because if you had to slick it out a lot, it's gonna hurt your wrist. Do this every day. You won't be liking life. I say it's like working with the cement, basically drywall cement. You ever work with cements or plasters or stuccos, then you know you work with the material as it starts setting up. Especially stucco. Starts setting up, you have to take off the extra material. Get rid of that edge so the transition, new texture blends in. You don't want to see a big mud edge. Go every direction. Clean up the box. Keep the box clean. Keep your detail edges clean. This first coat is good. I could probably texture it heavy, but it still needs a little bit of work. So I'm going to mix another pan of 5 minutes. I don't need much mud because we're just going to do a tight skin. It's almost a perfect patch, but we want it perfectly smooth. A perfect smooth patch before you even think about texturing. Everybody thinks texture is meant to hide everything, coat, process everything, but the texture is just a cosmetic design. It's not there to fill in any of your imperfections. So basically treat the patch like a smooth, perfect patch before you think about doing any type of texture over it. I got my little compressor ready. I'm gonna let that run, fill up with air while I mix a second pan. This one's setting up pretty quickly. Basically go over all your first coat. We're not coating this super heavy because we already did the heavy first coat. Second coat is just to fill in any imperfections. Some guys even like to go the opposite direction of the first coat, but I just go the direction it looks like it needs it. Like this, that way. The bottom again, pull your bottoms real tight because you're against the base area, so you gotta just do it real tight. Nice tight skin coat. This is just to fill in any imperfections, makes a patch perfect. I can get away with doing 2 coats. Most guys that don't do mudding every day, they might have to do 3 coats. It's no problem. Just third coat would just be a tight third coat after this one sets up. We're gonna let that set up. Mix a little too much, of course, but you can get that out of your pan. If it's joint compound, you can just put the joint compound back in your mud, save it for the next job. These quick set muds, once you mix it, that's it. Let's go get our tools cleaned up. Same thing, we're gonna slick this out again, and then we're gonna get the hopper with some regular all-purpose joint compound. We're gonna do the spray knockdown. Basically, you're gonna spray it out like a splatter and then knock it down with a 6-inch knife. Some imperfections there. Looks like an old shelf is there, so I might spray a little bit of texture on that, clean it up, kind of feather it out. You always want to go past, so I might even go to this angle, bottom, take it out further and wider so it's a nice transition with your texture. Right, got my air compressor. Let's get this cleaned up and get ready. Got my air compressor filled up. This is a little air compressor, so it really runs a long time just to fill up. It's just a little 3-gallon I use for these small jobs. But yeah, that hot mud's setting up again, that second coat. So same thing like we did with the first coat, slick it out with your nice 6-inch, straight 6-inch knife and a wet sponge. Get rid of that edge. That edge, it's most important to get rid of that edge so it feathers it out. We call that feathering the edge. Feather it out. You can add a little bit of water to the rest of the patch. Same thing like the first coat. You're just going through with the 6, taking off the extra mud. You can go any direction, but this is a hot mud technique. If you never mudded before, just do a joint compound. Joint compounds, you just sand away your mistakes. These ones, you have to take away your mistakes before they set up. It has to be slicked out. If not, it's going to set up like a cement rock on your wall or ceiling. Any lap marks, your base area, make sure that's all feathered in nicely, nice and tight. We don't want a big old hump of mud down by our base area. You can fill it in, or you could just texture it and then the next stage is caulk in your baseboard before you paint. Everything looks good, our edge is killed. Around our box detail is clean. Everything's ready. We're gonna let this fully set up another couple minutes. In the meantime, I'm gonna go get my hopper ready. The air compressor is gonna turn on, so it may get loud, but I'm just basically gonna spray it. Nice symmetrical pattern. You go horizontal, vertical, whatever direction you go. My hose here, this is my compressor wire, so if I get texture on it, I'm just gonna have to clean it. But yeah, the air compressor is gonna kick on. Just watch how I spray this, okay? Adjust your nozzle, good hoppers. Sometimes you could adjust your nozzle and then spray it on the plastic until you get the spray pattern you're looking for. Nozzle and then spray it on the plastic until you get the spray pattern you're looking for. And then you can go. Sprayed it out. Your next step with the spray knockdown, I like to take my clean knife. 6-inch knife is always easier to work with. I know guys use bigger knives. Damp sponge. Your knife always has a curve. You don't want to put the curve end on the wall. You want to put the flat part on the wall. We're going to lightly knock down. I'm not holding the knife like that. I'm just like gliding over it. I start on the outside edge. We're just lightly gliding over it just to knock it down. Just to knock it down. If you have a really light knockdown, sometimes you could just leave this splatter and then the next day sand it and it'll give you that knockdown appearance. I'm not pushing down hard. Not pushing down hard. You just want to lightly knock it down. Lightly knock it down. This is just a knockdown texture. Any direction, no big deal. Don't push down too hard. If you push down hard, you're going to have flat spots. I'm trying to make this video here on my phone, working by myself, so I'm doing pretty good considering working on a job, working with mud, then videotaping. Any missed areas, just go over it. Sometimes you got to stand back and look at it. Any high areas, just double check all your knockdown areas. Knock it down, knock it down. Some guys like to take the sponge on their outside field and kind of get rid of that little pesky overspray dots, but you can also get rid of that when you go to sand before you paint. We're gonna pull our masking. See why we masked that off? Nice clean box. Square box like that. You can clean it up now, or you can even just wait till you get ready to paint when everything's dry and really clean it up. Pull your masking. Pull your masking. See, we got spray all over the masking. That's why we do this. Keep it all clean. Keep it all clean. See, some got on this overspray on the cabinet, those little dots. All that wipes down too. If you do get overspray on stuff, you can take a clean rag, wet rag, and just wipe everything down. But get this all cleaned up. Next step is just let this dry for a day overnight. Lightly sand it with like 150 to 220 grit sandpaper, primer, then paint. If you put a fan on it, it might help dry it by tonight, and she can turn around and sand it and primer and paint if she had to use her washer. But rule of thumb is just wait till overnight. But yeah, nothing to it. Nice patch. Get it all cleaned up. Don't let this plastic sit overnight too. Say, oh, well, I'm going to paint tomorrow. I'm going to just leave it. Just pull it down, clean it all up, and then remask to paint. We got texture all over this. It just turns into a big mess if you let this sit overnight. So always pull your plastic once you're done texturing. You can always put down a new piece of plastic tomorrow. Clean up everything. While the texture is wet, it's easier to clean the floors. Any overspray. Just make sure everything looks good. I put the face plates back on here since the homeowner may or may not know how to do it. But yeah, just let this dry overnight. It's all cleaned up. Get all your tools cleaned up, especially if you use a hopper like I did, a spray hopper. You want to wash that out right away with the hose. Don't let it dry in it, because then it's going to be a real fun task trying to get all that mud out of there. So if you ever do use a spray hopper for spray textures, always clean it up with the hose really good, thoroughly, right after you're done with texture. Don't just put it to the side and say, oh, I'll do it later. Just clean it up right away. But everything's good. Everything's wiped down. I just double check everything, make sure there's no overspray on anything. Even though I did mask it, the spray goes everywhere because I'm spraying at a high PSI. But yeah, hope you liked the video. I made this on my cell phone while working in the field by myself. So working with my two hands and recording it and trying to make you guys a video on a simple how to do drywall repair video on a laundry box. I have a few other videos of these laundry boxes. This is the most common job I do in laundry rooms. These things always leak. They cause havoc. They're nice to have in the wall for your washing machine, but they do leak eventually, and you're going to have to get these cut open. This one, the water ran down, so they cut it all open, but we got all sheetrock, got it taped, coated 2 times, and we did the spray knockdown texture. All repaired, all textured up in one trip. I used a hot mud, quick set mud, But like I said throughout the video, if you use drywall mud, just use a joint compound. Those have to dry overnight. It takes a little longer, but if you use a joint compound, you make a mistake, you can sand away your mistakes the next day. But that's it for this job. Let's get to the next one. Thank you.